More equations of lines, but this time we're going to deal with parallel and eventually perpendicular. You should remember from geometry that parallel lines have equal slopes. So when you are asked to find the equation of the line parallel to this equation, then all that matters is that number right there. This y-intercept does not mean a thing to us. This is just a tricky way to tell us the slope is 1/2. So we're doing a slope of 1/2 with that point. We've done a bunch of these now. Plugging in, y is -1, m is 1/2, 4/1 plus b. This time the fraction happens to cancel out, which is convenient. 1/2 times 4 is 2. Subtract 2 from both sides, and we have b equals -3. Be sure you write the whole equation, which is y equals the slope you were given. It was kind of hidden, but you were given it, 1/2 x minus the y-intercept. Same kind of problem. We have y equals 2/5. That's our slope that we need to use. Pairing up with that point, just start plugging in. Y is -1, m is 2/5, x is 3, which I'll write as 3/1, and all that's left is to solve this out. 2/5 times 3/1 is 6/5. And either get rid of the fraction or deal with it, whatever you want to do. I'm going to get rid of it because I know most students just hate fractions, so let's get rid of it. 5 times -1 is -5. Here that cancels. I have 6 plus 5b. Let's subtract 6 from both sides. -11 equals 5b. Divide by 5, and that's our b. So our equation is y equals the slope we were given, 2/5, plus the y-intercept of -11/5. You can check by putting 3 in here and -1 in for y, and you'll see that it really does check. It works. Find the equation of the line parallel to this equation. This is a smidge different than the last couple ones we did because the other two, the slope was obvious. With this, we're going to have to do a little bit of work to get the slope. To get the slope, I have to have this in y equals mx plus b form. So in other words, I need to solve for that y. So the first thing I'm going to do is move this 5x and 6 to the other side. So I'm going to have -3y equals -5x, because the way I'm moving it is subtract 5x from both sides. Move that 6 by subtracting it from both sides. I still don't have y totally alone, so I have to divide both sides by -3. That cancels out. Clean this up. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. -6 divided by -3 is +2, but basically who cares what that is, because the only reason we did this was to find the slope. Don't get confused. Some people get that y-intercept and think it needs to go into the y equals mx plus b. That's the y-intercept of your original line. It has absolutely nothing to do with the next line. So cross it out. We don't need it. What I need is that slope with that point. So -5 in for y, 5/3 in for m, -2 for x, and b is what we're going to be looking for. So this is -10/3 plus b equals -5. This time, just to do it differently, I'm just going to add 10/3 to both sides and get a common denominator. This 5 is the same as 5/1. I need a common denominator of thirds. So multiply that by 3, multiply that by 3 gives me -15/3. Add that together is -5/3 equals b. You know, if you got a calculator that does this, that's great. If you want to go through it on your own and multiply everything by 3, you're going to get the same value for b. But if you are half decent with fractions, this is faster. So my equation is y equals the slope that we had, the 5/3 x, plus this y-intercept of -5/3. And you can always write -5/3, or you could do plus -5/3. Not a problem. Parallel says I need the slope of this equation, and to get the slope of this equation, I need to solve this for y. This one's pretty easy to solve for y. I'm just going to subtract 2x from both sides, and I have y equals -2x plus 4. So the slope I'm going to use is -2, paired up with that point. So -3 equals the slope of -2 times 1 plus b. This is negative 2 plus b equals negative 3. Add 2 to both sides, and we have negative 1 for b. So this is y equals negative 2x, that was my slope, minus 1. Before we can continue with more equations, I need to remind you of a fact that you had in geometry, and that is that perpendicular lines have slopes that are negative reciprocals. So if this is the initial slope, the slope of the perpendicular line tells me to flip this upside down and make it negative. Flip this upside down, make it negative. Flip this upside down, make it negative. Now it was already negative, which means it changes the sign to positive. Flip this upside down, change the sign, and we get negative 5/8. So when you see the word perpendicular, you know the slope we're dealing with is negative reciprocal. Find the equation of the line perpendicular to this equation. As soon as you see the word perpendicular, you know you're not going to use this slope, you're going to use the perpendicular slope. So I suggest you write this M perpendicular sign. Remember, the upside down T is your perpendicular. Take that slope, switch it upside down, gives you 3/4, change the sign. That and that are the two values you're going to plug into this equation here. So put 1 in for y, negative 3/4 in for m, negative 6 in for x, plus b. I could reduce this, but I'm not going to bother. Just multiply it up. The reason I didn't reduce is I'm going to get rid of that fraction right now by multiplying everything by the denominator anyway, so why waste time? 4 cancels out, I get 18 plus 4b. Solve your equation, subtract 18 from both sides, which gives us negative 14 equals 4b. Divide both sides by 4. And now I'm going to reduce this. This reduces by 2 and I get negative 7/2. So my equation is y equals the slope I used, the negative 3/4 x, plus negative 7/2 or minus 7/2, that doesn't matter. If you want to check, put negative 6 in for x, put 1 in for y, and you'll see that it's going to work. Same kind of problem. Here's the original equation. That's the slope of that line. I don't want to use that slope. I need the perpendicular slope. Change that sign, flip this upside down, gives me a slope of 2. Plugging that and that point into this is going to give me negative 3 equals m of 2 times 4 plus b. This is 8. Undo this by subtracting 8 from both sides, and I get b equals negative 11. Write your equation, y equals slope minus 11. The hardest one of this type is when you're asked to find the line perpendicular, but look at this equation, it's not in the y equals mx plus b form. So the first thing we need to do is get this thing solved for y. So let's subtract 5x from both sides, which gives us 2y equals negative 5x plus 3. Divide everything by 2. And this is our slope-intercept form. Here's the slope. We don't need this. This was the y-intercept of the original line. Cross it off so that you don't use it when you're not supposed to. That's the slope of the original line. We're asked for the line perpendicular, so you need to write m perpendicular. Switch this around, flip it upside down, change the sign, and we're looking at this slope combined with this point, and we can complete it the way we've done all these other ones. Y is 3, m is 2/5, x is 4, which I'll write as 4 over 1. So this is 3 equals 8/5 plus b. Let's multiply everything by the denominator of 5 to get rid of the fraction. So that gives us 15 equals 8, because the 5's cancel, plus 5b. Subtract 8 from both sides. Gives us 7 equals 5b, because those 8's canceled. Divide everything by 5, and our b is 7/5. So our equation is y equals that slope we used, which was 2/5 times x, plus 7/5.